Welcome back to 2023 Affordable Housing Summit. My next speaker is Jerry Baker at NES. As we all know, the largest line item cost in most mobile home parks is, in fact, water and sewer, but really all utilities are big. If you have a master metered electrical park, that's a huge expense. Same with gas. So, years ago, people in the park business thought, we will be way ahead if we can get out of paying for our residents' utilities and instead pass that cost back on to them. And we've been a huge advocate of that. Among the best in the nation to get that job done is NES, of which Jerry Baker has been doing metering in mobile home parks for nearing 40 years. And so we wanted him on here with his breadth of experience to talk to you all about how you can submeter parks, how the process works. We'll have a little Q&A at the end, but with no further ado, Jerry, take it away. And I think Jerry's got a PowerPoint for you guys, and then we're going to do some Q&A. Go ahead.
Terrific. Thank you, gentlemen. By way of the elevator pitch, just real quick, I got into the submetering business as a result of being a bank examiner in 2 different states after having graduated from RIT and getting my CPA license and so forth. Became a commercial lender, you'll like this, before the invention of the internet. And because I was in commercial lending, I was looking at all kinds of loan packages. My existing portfolio was handed to me, and as well, opportunities that came along. Mobile home parks were growing by leaps and bounds. People were buying and selling them. And I was, as I say, a commercial lender at a bank holding company. And what I did was I was looking at the financial statements, having never owned a mobile home park before, not being able to afford what people are buying that I was lending on. So I literally moved tongue in cheek, moved the decimal point to the left and number of spaces and income and so forth and said, oh, it still works. But those were the days when, before the internet and before a great deal of submetering was taking place, people were, to your point, continuing to absorb the utility costs that are consumed within each mobile home. So I bought 1 mobile home park, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and I've had all of them at least 30 years. So the uniqueness of NES as it relates to submetering and utility billing and the other services that we provide is that A, I have extensive experience in mobile home communities. I've lived it. And B, we've developed the submetering program, which in my way of thinking, and as I've been told, we're the 2nd oldest submetering company in America and one of the largest. That said, what we do is we go into mobile home parks and submeter any of the water, the gas, or the electric, or provide billing services through a RUBS program. Let's go through the next slide, and I'll go further into this. So I was a bank examiner, as it says. I bought NES in 1988. It was a 1-man band. I used tongue in cheek on this one. It was easy for me once I bought the company to be planning for the Christmas party because it was a party of 1. So it was a very small entity at that time. And I grew it into what it is today, which is multinational, and total number of states that we serve through submetering of mobile home communities is 43. The most recent one was last year where we added state number 43, and it was in Alaska, of all things. We now have hundreds of mobile home parks that we submeter and use our utility billing program and so on for. And we have everything vertically integrated, from compliance to training to inventory to tech services, even consumer compliance. We have our own internal consumer compliance department to make sure that people who depend upon us to read the meters and send the bills out, either collect or not, as it were, pay utility bills, Energy Star benchmarking we'll get into, and so on, do it properly. So vertically integrated, a lot of years of doing it, and direct responsibility for, with starting with my own assets some decades ago. Go to the next slide. So we have, among the services, we have submetering, of course. We do the meter reads every day. We bill people on a monthly basis. We will either collect or have the money sent to or rendered at the clubhouse. Or you can use a RUBS program, less common, as it were, in mobile home communities. more common in apartment communities where you have multiple feed lines. MyReads is a program where we use analytics, and they're based upon actual daily reads of the people, the residents' utility cost, and we send data points to whomever you wish for us to email of such things as your consumption was higher than normal, your consumption has been unusually low, your meter appears to be running nonstop, and so on, so that at the end of a month, you're not getting people coming in and saying, it's all your fault, there's problems with my meter, et cetera, et cetera. Rather, we send out emails, we push these emails to the team that you choose at each asset, and certainly you can be among the people that receive these emails. But we set guidelines that we work with you on. And once we set the guidelines for the parameters for which we are sending the data points, and you've chosen the intended recipients, you're then able to control their destiny and avoid a lot of confrontation with the tenants, as it were. Okay. Utility bill pay and Energy Star benchmarking. I'll start with utility bill pay. When we are responsible for the billing of a mobile home park, we automatically have to have the utility bills for the utility for which we're billing. Why? Because you're not always given any type of, or very little, notice, advance notice of a rate increase. In order to achieve the highest rate of return, what we want to do is to have the utility bills sent to us so that we can audit them for you, mimic the rates to make sure that your capture for every CCF, every gallon, every therm, every BTU is charged at the rate that you were charged, I use the phrase, at the street from the utility company, okay? So as rates go up and change, so do we change the rates in the billing package, which is done instantaneously as soon as we get the bill. So what we did was we chose to take that information and offer a service called utility bill pay. What is it? We'll take the utility bills that you have for common areas. We will image them. We will bar graph or pie chart them. We will pay them for you. And that way you're knowing we audit them as well so that you don't have to worry about it. Therefore, there are no late fees. There are no questions. There are no unanswered terminology that so many of these utility bills have on them. We're going to be responsible for obtaining them, imaging them, bar graphing them, supplying history for them. And real important is at the end of a year, we also help you budget for next year. So at the end of a given year in Q4, we will go ahead and work with you if you wish. It's just all included as a value add. The budget for each of the mobile home communities that you have anywhere in the country, because we have an extremely extensive database. So now you're going to know what you should put in for utility costs for the upcoming year. Utility audits are just that. Well, I'm going to go back to Energy Star benchmarking just for a second. Energy Star benchmarking is becoming more important, prevalent, known, required in some instances on commercial buildings a lot. Whether I'm in Bangor, Maine, Houston, Texas, Tampa, Florida, Los Angeles, it doesn't matter. Energy Star benchmarking allows a building owner to achieve credits or other offsetting expenses for having put into play additional cost-cutting measures to consume less energy. And some municipalities are requiring that information be brought forth and sent to Washington. We do that as well. Also part of the add-on free is part of our service. Mobile home parks, not so much. Eventually, my feeling is that it's going to become more and more and more prevalent, but time will tell. But to the extent that when anyone asks you about it, is it available as a service that we do? Yes. Well, now you know a little bit about it. And as time goes on, it will become more of a requirement. In particular, I see for properties being constructed. You're building a new mobile home community in the Midwest or wherever it may be, yes, you're going to actually have to participate in the Energy Star program from day one. Lastly, on this slide, utility audits. This is what we actually started out doing back in '88 when I bought NES, which is we audit water, gas, electric, and telecom, what we commonly refer to as WGE&T. Not a surprise, but when you grab your cell phone bill, for example, and you look on page 9, you see all these acronyms and abbreviations, and you don't understand them. You call the utility company, the phone company, whatever, whoever it may be, can't get straight answers or whatever. Some of these charges and so on that are on these utility bills are avoidable or downright incorrect. They shouldn't be there. We perform utility audits and have for the entire period of time that I've owned NES on a contingency basis. So our remuneration under that program was simply whatever the refund was, we received a percentage of it. All of it went to the ownership, which we confirmed, and then we would invoice for our portion thereof. But what if there were no refunds? There are not always refunds. As a matter of fact, oftentimes there aren't. But you also have somebody in your camp who is working for you because the way we're making money at that is to find something wrong. As an example, the largest refund that I've been able to achieve in the years that I've owned NES is $68,000 from an electric company that was incorrectly charging at an asset that we located. It took us over a year to get that money because they dragged their feet, and it was not an uphill battle, but we went through a number of steps finally getting it. But that's a lot of money because it was an asset that the ownership had owned for many years, and the utility was large. It was a large amount of money they paid, and it was for a long period of time. So that's what those services are, very briefly. Next slide. Submetering is something that's becoming increasingly more common, but you would be surprised. We're still getting calls from people who have never submetered before, maybe haven't even heard of it, and therefore we're taking them from zero knowledge to providing a proposal for submetering, explaining it in detail, whose responsibility is what, and so forth. But submetering is where you place meters, water, gas, or electric, after the main meter that comes onto a property. And therefore, we're measuring from that point where the meter is installed to the consumer's home, in this case, a mobile home community, mobile home space, so that when they're paying for their own water, their own electricity, their own gas, they're not paying for their neighbor. It's measured use. They can go out, they can read their meter, they can do the calculations themselves, they can call the utility company. Because a few moments ago, I mentioned we received the utility bills directly from you, which is from the utility company. If you allow us a log on, there's not going to be an issue with rates. They're only paying for their own. They're not paying for the clubhouse or the swimming pool or the car wash or the next door neighbor, only their own. It's very equitable, and you therefore can control, tenants can, the residents, their own destiny. We install these meters, we service the meters, and we do the billing on those. We read them every day. Okay. Let's see, increases part. Okay, as you can imagine, and we've got an example that will be in this slide deck here of two properties where we have information regarding the utility cost before submetering. And on one of them, we have the utility cost after submetering, but before sending the very first bill even. And then afterwards, after it was fully absorbed. And then we have another example of going from non-submetered to fully submetered in billing. The numbers are staggering. The numbers are staggering because utility costs are not going down. They continue to rise. And with people allowing drippy faucets, toilet flappers that need to be replaced, whatever, too many people living in the home, whatever. Therefore, now they're going to be held responsible for that cost, and we'll have to pay it accordingly to you or to us, and so it goes. Oh, we do have a program whereby we will finance the installation of the meters themselves under certain circumstances. So we're trying to take the cost of the equipment out of the equation so that the owners don't have to budget for it and wait until next year. Rather, let's go ahead and put this equipment in now and reap the benefits of assigned responsibility to the end user. So we do financing as well, and we are actually the bank. Next slide. These are the two examples that I wanted to share with you. The top one is a 130 space mobile home park in Texas. All of the numbers that are on this page, this slide, are owner expenses, okay? So monthly average water cost before submetering, the owner was paying $10,000 per month on average, or $120,000 annually. After submetering, however, before we sent the very first bill, that's what happened to the utility cost. It dropped from 10,000 to 7. There was a 30% drop in utility costs. Why? Because, and I know this property, I know this park, we told them we're going to go a period of 90 days, 3 billing cycles, for everyone to have an opportunity to know what their bill will be if they do nothing at all. So you can probably imagine a person's getting a utility bill, never had one before, not responsible yet, but will be in a matter of 90 days. They're going to Home Depot or Ace Hardware or whatever it may be to take care of the leaks and the utility uses that can be modified, lowered, as it were. Shower heads, aerators, flappers, the whole shooting match, okay? So without even sending a bill out, the owner captured a 30% rate of return because the utility cost, which he was at that point paying all of, dropped $84,000. And finally, after the submetering program was fully implemented and all 130 spaces were receiving a utility bill, there's your number. It went from $120,000 annually, $7,000 is how much that utility cost was after it was fully absorbed. Huge, huge. Now, take your cap rates and so on and apply them. Anybody can do that. Pretty obvious. This is a large line item on an I&E summary for a mobile home community, and thus investing time and energy and putting together an equitable, ratably provided submetering program. The numbers speak for themselves. The other example is in New Mexico that will tell you that the water rates in New Mexico are much, much less than they were in Texas. But it's a good example, nonetheless, of a 140 space mobile home park. And in that instance, the, again, owner's cost were $2,200 per month for the entire park. They're paying everything right after that master meter that's on the easement, or $26,400 annually on average. After installing the meters and beginning the billing process, that $26,400 became $264. It was a small use of water on the property, with the rest of it being some 90% of it was the individual homeowner, and they're paying for that now. Huge, 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 huge. So next slide. RUBS, ratio utility billing. In this instance, it's not widely used, but it can be. But I will tell you up front, it's not as well accepted as RUBS is usually segmented or used by multi-point inputs into an apartment community where you've got stacked plumbing, and I cannot tell the difference between the water used on the first floor versus the second versus the third. That's why RUBS works, is because I could put a meter in, but I can't tell the difference between John's use, Mary's use, or Mr. and Mrs. Smith's use, because it's all going through that same meter without putting many meters, cost prohibitive, many meters into the apartments. So I'm going to explain RUBS so that you have a basic understanding of it, knowing highly unlikely you would use it in a mobile home community. You don't have to accept that methodology. You've got much better choices when it comes to shedding yourself of utility costs. RUBS is ratio utility billing. We will take the water, gas, or electric, whatever it is that's being consumed by the tenants in the mobile home community, and we'll apportion it using algebra based upon the size of the home, the number of utility consuming fixtures, whatever it may be, and the number of people according to the lease or your rent roll, what have you, that are dwelling there. So it's mathematics to take the water bill or gas or electric in totality and allocating it over the profile of the tenants and sending out bills. That's what RUBS is. Okay. We typically use, there's 9 different formulas. Well, most of the time, the formulas will boil down to 2 different methods, and we can get into that if there are any specific assets that a person would want to talk to us about when it comes to this. Again, more probably it would be in an apartment community. Even the shopping centers have separate demarc points for each business that's in there. Okay. RUBS can be, okay, RUBS, the good news about RUBS, though, looking at that slide, is it can be implemented in 30 days. Why? Because we're not installing any equipment. We don't have to wait for 2 meter reads in order to take a differential so that we can say that your water consumption was X or Y. It's going to be based upon the overall bill, less a common area deduction, then allocated over the profile, occupancy, square footage, utility consuming fixtures for the billing cycle that coincides with the utility bill from the municipality. Next slide. My reads. My reads, my background being public accounting, My reads is a service that we offer that will provide daily reads on any property, any meter within that property that you want. So we can provide above or below certain thresholds and so on, the consumption of every single lot, including the common area, which I'm an advocate, by the way, of metering any common areas that you folks as owners are paying for, because we will find errors in the bills. We will find leaks, broken pipes, the pool that looks great at a property, but because it has an autofill device, well, that's terrific, but it's using 16,000 gallons per month, but you don't know it because we haven't submetered the common area. The clubhouse is the same, laundry rooms are the same, and so on. Submeter everything and anything, even though you're not billing for it. So MyReads provides that pushed data so that people will understand and have control over their own common areas. And as well, if you have any rentals, many of us do, we can avoid the month end resident coming in and saying, I don't own this home, I rent it. This is your toilet. Therefore, the $80 water bill, which should be $40, just using an example, you're ending up having to write off half of that bill because they are in fact correct. They are only renting. They don't own it. It's your problem, not their problem. So common areas and the assets that you own, the mobile homes that you own within a community, better control over that. And that's it on that particular slide. Go to the next slide. Utility bill pay is the accounting program that we use to obtain, image, bar graph, and pay the utility bills, any of the common area utility bills that you folks are paying on a monthly basis. And some of them are continuous. Let's say the clubhouse that you have in an asset, the water sewer bill that you automatically get from the city or county. Some of them are when you have rentals, and many people do, many of us do as park owners, they're in your name for a while. You fix the home up, you now rent it, you put it into the other that person's name who leased. And so therefore, you're going to know how much your portion of it is, how much of that bill is theirs, and then you can go ahead and keep moving forward. So if you have 10 or 12 bills on a property, 5 of them may be month in and month out from the time you bought the asset until the day you sell it. And others are going to be those few rentals that you have that from time to time are vacant and then become reoccupied by a new tenant. We also take a look at the rates and tariffs on those as well. Again, I mentioned previously that we have, for residential and commercial, the most extensive database in the country. And again, whether you're in the Pacific Northwest, the Midwest, or the New England area, it matters not. We have all the tariffs because we have so many properties that we're responsible for. We automatically get those. And we'll find, for example, when we do this, we find issues of, there's a CG1, commercial general demand 1 rate that you're on. However, that's one of your rentals, which therefore should be on a residential non-low demand rate. The differential is 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Gee, that's not very much money until you find out that it's been for months and months and years on end, because when the meters are read initially, the coding is put into the software of the utility billing company, the municipally owned or stock owned utility company. They put that code in there to tell what rate should be applied to the consumption. So the consumption hasn't changed. The cost per unit of measure may be different to your benefit, maybe not. So that's why we do the audits continuously on any of these assets for which we're responsible. Again, we pay the bills for you. We integrate with virtually every software package that I can think of when it comes to your accounting package. Whether, it doesn't matter which one it is, we already have APIs because we've been doing it as long as we have. Myself, 34 years. So we've got the API in order to upload the charges for any of the rents and any of the utility costs and so forth that we're billing for that you wish to collect. So that's that's done every day, hundreds of times per day, and all of your assets would be the same way, which is if you want us to collect it, it would come to us. If the money goes to you, we use our API to upload the charges, and then we're off to the next billing cycle for you. So either or, I use the phrase red car, blue car. You like it one way or the other, does not matter. In some cases, surprise or not, some owners will have us handle the collections at certain assets and not at other assets because maybe they've got larger or smaller properties or different kinds of real estate that they've invested in, whatever the case may be, but it's your choice. Next slide. Utility audits. Okay. One of the things I failed to mention about the utility audits, which is where we go in and on a contingency basis, we'll take a look at your audits, the utility bills for you, are two. One is there are deregulated markets within the United States for certain utilities, and we negotiate and obtain lower cost per unit of measure in some instances for you because you can meet the thresholds of getting a lower rate from another utility company. And believe it or not, there's no new pipes or water lines or electrical lines coming in or gas lines. It's just that behind the scenes is deregulated and you have a choice amongst different companies. Gets confusing. Believe me when I tell you it does. So you really need somebody in your camp that knows the difference between the different utility companies, how long you would want to lock in a rate, what the projected future cost will be, and so forth. It's a lot of fun, actually. And the other is, if there are no fees available by way of refunds to us, again, I repeat, the cost of having us audit the utilities for you folks is zero. We'll take a look at it. We do the exact same work. We're hoping to find something. There is not always something. You may think that there is, but I'm sorry to tell you, it is being properly charged. And therefore, at least you have someone in your camp that's telling you the truth and working hard to get any differentials or any errors taken care of that don't belong on the bill or can be avoided. Next slide. Oh, that's me. That's it for the slide deck. I don't know if you have any questions or comments we can go through. I also provided to you folks what I call an e-submetering pack. If you want to take a quick glance at that, and maybe we can go through that as well for you. But how about we take a look at that as well?
Yeah, let's do that. Brandon, can you go ahead and put that up there?
Yes. Okay. Page 1. Got it. Let's move on. Utility management. It's all we've been doing since 1968. I bought the company in 88, 1968. Water, gas, and electric. Yes. Next. Why submetering is obvious: to assign responsibility to an end user so they can control their own destiny. One of the things I find interesting is when the utility cost is included in a person's rent, regardless of how much the rent is, and they go on a cruise, they go visit family during the holidays or have family visit with them, they come in and they're saying, well, gee, I have been gone for 2 weeks. I have been, or I've been in the hospital. I know that at the property level, managers have to deal with this from time to time. Well, no longer. If a person can control their own destiny and be responsible by way of having their own equipment that's attached to their home and their home only. Next. Why choose us? Okay. The reasons would be tenure. It's 30 odd years. It's 50 years plus for the company taken as a whole, but 30 odd for me. We also have extensive inventory. We went through a period of time where supply chain issues were problematic in a lot of different categories, but I never had that problem as the owner of NES, because in Q4 every year, what I do is we go ahead and buy well ahead of need based upon current year's production and what we anticipate next year's production to be. And we have everything in warehouses and in the parking lots in storage containers so that when you need equipment, we have it available. And I tell people it goes out the same day you order it. I find that to be extremely helpful. It's a great service to be able to say, yes, we do, rather than we can, but it'll take you a period of time to get it and we'll let you know when it's in, kind of thing. So that's important. It shows that we're fully committed and we carry a great deal of inventory and have it available for shipment at your beck and call. Web-based reporting. Everything is all web-based anymore. We are Submeter.com. We are Submeter.net. I bought those two websites when in the late 90s they first came out, and we've been there ever since. Integration, we talked about integration into your accounting package, whatever it may be. Not likely that we wouldn't have the ability to upload your charges so that you can collect those payments when they're due and payable on the 1st or the 15th. You can have it due whenever you want to. One of the things that I did not tell you that I think is important is if you are going to have payments rendered to your clubhouse or to a PO box, whatever, we're certainly capable of doing what we call convergent billing, consolidated billing. And that would involve any lot rent, any valet trash, or any sort of services that you have that people pay for separately. If lots are along the water and they're a different amount, or on a corner they're at a different amount, if they have late fees that have accrued and are unpaid, we put all of that as separate line items. There's really no limit to the number of line items that we can include in an invoice that goes to the tenant. electronically most of the time. Some people do prefer to have an envelope with the invoice included in it. We do that as well. Vacant recovery, good one. Vacant recovery, by definition, is where we all own some of the mobile homes in our communities. And when someone moves into a home that was vacant previously, make ready, it's ready to go. At that time, that cost for the utilities up until the point where that person is given the key and begins occupancy are in the owner's name. What some people will do, people are busy, what have you, the utilities are left in the name of the ownership because the tenant forgot or otherwise to put the utilities in their name. So if we're doing your UEM for you and your utility bill pay, we're going to have those utilities. Because we have your utility bills, we have service from, service to dates and the consumption levels. And oh, by the way, we also have access to your rent roll package. So therefore, we know what date a person moved in, what date this invoice for that lot covers, and we know therefore how much of that is the tenant's and how much of it is yours. That's called vacant recovery, because it was vacant, became occupied, they didn't put the bills in their name, so some of that use is actually the responsibility of the tenant. We'll take care of that for you as part of our service, and there's a surcharge that's put on that is paid for by the resident. It's their responsibility, and they'll take care of that. And therefore, you don't have this going on month in and month out until finally someone says, did we ever rent that lot at that property in Kansas City or in Dallas or in Charlotte? Yes, to find out that in some cases, the tenant that you want to back bill has already been evicted or has already moved out. Well, now you're going to eat that entire cost. You've been paying it all along. We can't back bill because they're gone already. Payment methods for any of the utilities for which we handle the payments are Visa, we accept Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, eCheck, Auto Debit, IVR, which is interactive voice recording, or snail mail. So we have multiple payment methods by which a person can pay their utilities. So there's no excuse for not doing so. Okay, so if we're handling your payments, we've got 8 payment methods. Take your pick, and the resident will therefore not have an excuse or cause not to pay their utility costs along with their rent if we're collecting for you that or whatever that is on the utility bill. Oh, bilingual. All of my customer service reps are bilingual and have been decades. So that's important as well. We also are in all 4 time zones. So we have people who are covering the Eastern Standard Time Zone to the Pacific Standard Time Zone as well. So regardless of when people call in, they're going to get a live person and they're going to have someone to talk to for when is my bill due. I tried to log on and I can't pay it. I can't find my water bill. I forgot what my account number is and I'm at the office. Can you help me out? Yes, yes, and yes. Next page. Customer service is not a department, it's an attitude. Next slide. Submetering did that. But as you can see, we do all kinds of real estate, okay? And a lot of folks are cross-investing, I call it. Some will buy the shopping center that they've been renting for however many years, and they end up buying the whole place. Or they'll buy an apartment community because it comes as a package along with 6 mobile home parks, and the family wants to get out of the whole thing, whatever have you. So we can handle any, I like to refer to it as multi-tenant, okay, multi-use properties we can submeter and do all over the country. Go ahead, next slide. We talked about RUBS, very good, next. Utility audits, contingency based, no refund, no fee. And one adjunct on utility audits, many people will have us audit their utility bills annually. Why is that? Because everybody has to file a tax return every year. And some of us many tax returns for each entity that we own. And the rules of the game change every year when it comes to utility rates and what qualifies and what doesn't. Also new rate codes and so on. Just as when you file your tax returns, you'll find that this year the tax code is, and I qualify for this, or the earned income credit is no longer, interest on credit cards are no longer deductible on Schedule A, and so on and so on and so on. So people will come to us, and if we're doing your properties anyway, we have the utilities, and we're going to go back through once a year and make sure that things haven't changed. There are no new buy-in, rate code buy-ins, no meter merges we can take advantage of, and so on for you. So that we do as a matter of course for all of our clients. Next. Collections, we'll take it. We've got in-house collections as well. If you wish for us to collect the monies owed to you, we have our own internal collections department, and we're happy to do that. We do that only for the utilities side, not for the rent and so on, but it's helpful because people are moving quickly between projects and so on, and everyone's shorthanded. So if you want us to handle the collections, we have live people, they handle it. We've got fee-based search engines. We can find people pretty well, even if they moved out and so on. So that's been a real help to a lot of property owners. Indeed, indeed. Next. That's and anyone is certainly welcome to receive this slide deck, and as well, this is all part of our e-submetering pack. But what that is a Q&A for a person to take a look at what we offer so that they can ask for competitive purposes what someone else offers or doesn't and so on, so that you can kind of shop. You can do cost comparisons and features and benefits comparisons between ourselves and anyone else for that matter. Go ahead. Another couple of case studies. I'll leave you to read those on your own, but they mirror the same performance that the other two case studies that we went through do, because suddenly you're now being responsible for your own use of energy, water, gas, or electric utilities, and applying whatever the cap rates are today rendered some pretty significant increases in value for sure. And it's ongoing. It's not a one-time, it's ongoing. Next. And that is the last page of that e-submetering pack. It's called an e-submetering pack.
Okay, Jerry, got a few questions here for you. First off, do y'all do trash? Is trash even something y'all have ever done? I'm just curious. It's the one utility off the list. Is there trash?
We have helped people on a limited basis. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, and then
what we're looking for.
I saw at the Louisville show, they're talking about a meter that clamps onto a water line maybe in the future as opposed to cut into the line. Is that actually true?
That is actually true. Yes. Yes. You would, we're at this is almost like AI right now. Yes. We'll proceed with caution. The equipment that we use, we are not using them at this time. And the reason is because we want to have some time and put onto that project to make sure that it gets the proper AWWA sanctioning and approvals, NSF as well, and so on. So yes, that absolutely will come.
Okay. And then Jerry, finally, because we're running short on time, if someone wants to reach out to NES, how's the best way to start the dialogue? Call you, email you? What does someone do?
Either or. My cell phone is 727-638-6223, 727-638-6223. And my email address is jbaker, B-A-K-E-R, at Submeter.com, jbaker at Submeter.com. Happy to help you. I answer questions morning, noon, and night, weekends. Yes, sir.
Right. And so the bottom line is, as the industry has matured and as water sewer prices have risen and as park owners are trying to maximize profitability, NES can solve almost all of the above. If they can finance the cost of metering, They can collect the money. They can help determine whether the resident has a leak or not. I mean, the industry has gotten so advanced in submetering, it's crazy. If you currently are not submetering, you really need to contact Jerry and find out what the options are. Because as you heard, there's rubs, there's metered use, there's all kinds of stuff. He can handle your budget based on what you have as far as capital. He can finance what you don't. So I would just urge you, if you're currently paying your water sewer, or if you're doing it the old style where you have the old fashioned meter that the manager's crawling under the skirting to get the reading with a flashlight, again, call Jerry and he can definitely give you a proposal to get that fixed. So again, Jerry, we appreciate your time being here. We're gonna take a quick break and then we'll be back with our next speaker at the 2023 Affordable Housing Summit. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you all in a minute.
Thank you.